For the kingdom of heaven is like a landowner who went out early in the morning to hire labourers for his vineyard. After agreeing with the labourers for the usual daily wage, he sent them into his vineyard. When he went out about 9 o'clock, he saw others standing idle in the marketplace. And he said to them, "You also go into the vineyard, and I will pay you whatever is right." So they went. When he went out again about noon and about 3 o'clock, he did the same. And about 5 o'clock he went out and found others standing around. And he said to them, "Why are you standing here idle all day?" They said to him, "Because no one has hired us." He said to them, "You also go into the vineyard." When evening came, the owner of the vineyard said to his manager, "Call the labourers and give them their pay, beginning with the last and then going to the first." When those hired about 5 o'clock came, each of them received the usual daily wage. Now, when the first came, they thought they would receive more, but each of them also received the usual daily wage. And when they received it, they grumbled against the landowner, saying, "These last worked only 1 hour, and you have made them equal to us, who have borne the burden of the day and the scorching heat." But he replied to one of them, "Friend, I am doing you no wrong. Did you not agree with me for the usual daily wage? Take what belongs to you and go. I choose to give to this last the same as I give to you. Am I not allowed to do what I choose with what belongs to me? Or are you envious because I am generous?" So the last will be first, and the first will be last.
Well, Jenny, as you were reading that, ringing in my ears is a cry from my childhood. I grew up as one of 7 children, and the cry that came through was, "It's not fair."
Yeah, and I was one of 4, and I was the youngest.
And you had to say it.
I was the youngest, so I was probably saying it's not fair a lot. Yeah, particularly when you got to the end of that sort of pint of ice cream, and yours was the last piece, and it wasn't nearly as big as everybody else's. Yeah.
This is a well-known passage, and it's one I think that actually causes trouble for people. And I wonder if we should look at it, first of all, from the disciples' point of view, and then secondly, try and see what God is involved in, and just sort of tease it out a little bit there.
Because it's interesting to see the context, to actually find out who Jesus is talking to when he's using this parable. And it's interesting that in the chapter before, he's actually been talking to the disciples.
Yeah.
And dear old Peter's actually been saying, "Look, actually we've given up a lot for you, you know," and almost like what's in it for us when you're beginning to talk about the cost of this gospel and going to the cross and everything, and we've given up a lot.
But I think even just a few verses before that, there's that little incident where the children are brought to Jesus and the disciples try and push them away, almost as if this is our patch. We don't want you intruding. And I wonder, those two things, Peter saying, what's in it for us, and pushing the children away, gives a context for this, which is, I mean, it's a lovely parable depending on when you started work. Yes, I mean, if you started at 5 o'clock in the evening, I mean, you've still got a family to feed, and presumably you've been worrying all day about what you're going to do. But I suppose also, for those who have been on the go all day, fresh people coming in at 5 o'clock would actually help. Well, they help to get the job finished, but it also builds the resentment, doesn't it?
Yeah, especially, certainly when you see them getting a whole day's
And it's actually quite topical today when there is such discrepancy between wages that are paid. And I mean, we're constantly hearing about really obscene amounts of money that some people get. And you wonder how it can possibly be justified, actually.
And I think we do work, we're so aware of sort of scarce jobs and scarce pay and everything, and I think it's very easy to be in that sort of mindset of just looking out for number one and just focusing on it. But it's interesting that this is even addressed to those who are inside the church, if you like, the insiders who are. And we know we had all this lovely sort of one-upmanship among the disciples. So there's still, I suppose that's encouraging for us. They were still that sort of very human and that sort of worrying about, what's in it for us. And
so if we flip over and just think a bit about why Jesus told the parable from God's perspective, we have this really amazing generosity of God, that my kingdom is open.
Yes. And that's, when you think of children, they want absolute justice, they want absolute fairness, so it's got to be cut into absolutely equal portions. But here you get this sort of running over, the abundance, the mercy that's just pouring over.
Which is the grace of God, isn't it?
Yes.
And I suppose, those wonderful hymns that we sing about God's grace, and we talk about God's grace.
Yes, and we tend to focus on the enoughness rather than thinking we don't have to worry about this. God's taking away the concern. God will provide what's needed.
Indeed, I'm connecting with the parable of the prodigal son, where the grace and the older brother was very much like that, very similar.
Yes.
Well, there's lots to think about in there, and lots to challenge.
Yeah.